All right, thank you. That was a much more interesting introduction than I usually get for speaking engagements. I am an accountant by trade, so if I have advice to the Tech Vancouver, don't send an accountant up to bat cleanup when everybody's tired and wants to go home. So I'm Chief Product Officer at ACL. I ended up here because my startup was acquired by ACL. I haven't gotten the chance to interact with the startup community here in Vancouver as much as I would like, but from what I have done, I hear a lot of the messages. We love our startup community in Vancouver. The thing we hate is as soon as a company starts getting a little bit big, it gets acquired and goes to the US. And so I'm quite proud to be the one from the other direction that was a company based in downtown Manhattan that got acquired by a Vancouver-based software company, and we are the third or fourth largest software company here in town. That said, I am going to talk a little bit more about my story, really, than ACL's today. So as it says up there, I'm an accountant by trade. My mom thinks I do tax returns. I literally can't even do my own tax return. But she doesn't understand communities like these. So there's two brands up here. These two organizations, probably not super exciting to the Vancouver tech community, but I used to work for Ernst & Young, and we had this tagline, building a better working world. And working there, they then, with that as the tagline, they turned around and gave me this product to use that was called Thomson Reuters Auto Audit to do my work. No offense to anybody here that's involved with Thomson Reuters. Whoever built that and told people they should use it to do their job deserves a special place. I'll leave that alone, but save it to say, does not make for a better working world. So I left Ernst & Young, and what I went to do was I wanted to operate in an environment that I didn't really know how to start a business, but that said, I wanted to operate in a much more fluid environment, wanted to be able to make my own decisions, and most importantly, I wanted to throw my Windows laptop in the trash and never have to use one again. So we started our own firm. A partner and I left. We literally flipped a coin. That company was called Linford & Company. My partner was the Linford. I was the company. And I got that by losing a coin toss. I would recommend for personal branding not to take an approach to branding your startup. We were an audit and consulting firm, just like doing the same sorts of stuff that we did at E&Y. But what happened to me, I turned around, I went out to the first client we acquired that was a big anchor client. The first thing that happened, I go out there, and what fucking tool had they bought? So this was me going, here I am again, all over again, and wanted to take a bit of a different approach. So what I did was I wanted to find something better to use. Good news, I owned the firm, so I got to force my people to use whatever I wanted them to use. Back then, at the time, it was when Basecamp was just getting really popular. Does everybody remember the original Basecamp? Well, my contention was all these big enterprisey software tools, they look like IBM built them in 1975. I want Basecamp for auditors. So for those that remember what Basecamp originally looked like, I quite literally ripped off Basecamp for auditors. I didn't know how to program, unlike some of the others that spoke. I wasn't smart enough to go find somebody who did. So I spent 2 months trying to figure out what Ruby code was. I ripped off something off of GitHub called Base App that looked just like Basecamp. And next thing I know, I had Basecamp for auditors, and we started using that in my audit firm. So what happened was I had a big mining company in the U.S. called Intrepid Potash. They're an enormous, big, multi-billion-dollar mining company. We did some great client service work for them, and they saw us using this tool, and they said, "Hey, you know what? We'd really like to continue using that tool when you're not here. Do you think we could do that?" I said, "Yes, of course we can do that." Being the great businessman that I was at the time, I wrote them this contract, our first ever contract to provide workpapers.com as a product. And what is highlighted in that box is the fact that I took a multi-billion-dollar mining company and gave them a product free for 3 years when I had no money to start a startup. Also, not a good move. So I highly recommend not undervaluing yourselves early in your startup journey was my lesson there. The next thing that happened is I didn't know how to take this thing that we had literally been running on a Ruby on Rails app on my laptop. We'd go out to the office, everybody would connect a little hub to my laptop, and we'd use the app that way. Didn't yet know what to do. I hadn't yet discovered my good friends at Amazon, which changed the world. I mean, we all know Amazon changed the world, but I wouldn't have been able to do this without them ultimately. But at the time, I didn't know about Amazon, so I literally unplugged my Mac Pro. I brought it into Intrepid Potash's offices. I plugged it into the wall there and said, there you go. Good luck with workpapers.com, and out I walked. You can imagine the call I got from information security about 6 months later, thus discovering my friends at Amazon. So thank you very much, Amazon, for turning my total hack into a real business. So that's where workpapers.com was born. I ended up trading out partnership interest to my partner for the rights to the software, made that a small software company, and hired a development team. We made the software not look exactly like Basecamp because we had real designers and developers working for us. Built a team, a local team, as well as one over in southern Russia. We were quite proud of the work that we had done there, which led me to my next adventure in being the great businessman that I am, which was these pricing plans. As you can see, those pricing plans range from $49 a month to $899 a month. The $899 a month was for unlimited users, unlimited storage, unlimited everything. And I never actually sold one of those. Oddly enough, I sold a whole bunch of the ones in the smaller plans, led to deals like this. This is an invoice I sent to the Lexington School Center for the Deaf for the whopping annual price of $1,200 in annual revenue. So at this point, I had the multi-billion-dollar mining company using it for free, and the School for Deaf Kids had to pay the full pop of $1,200 a year. I still feel guilty about that one. So needless to say, I think what had happened was we were in the process. We'd actually built quite a good product. And we had a number of customers using it. It proved that there was value there. I clearly didn't know how to run a software business. I hit the point where it was time to start thinking about hiring somebody who did know how to run a software business and hiring some people who could actually sell. And just about the time I started to go out to look for the opportunity to bring on some investment, what happened was a few companies showed up at my door. One of those was ACL. ACL was an incredible opportunity for me. 90%, I think 90% of tech acquisitions of tech startups, 25 people and under, ultimately fail or get lost in the spider web when they show up at the bigger company. That didn't happen with ACL. ACL gave me the opportunity to say, you know what, we've already sold software for auditors to 14,000, 15,000 other companies all around the world. We think we'd like to give you a chance to come do that here. And I was extraordinarily thankful for that opportunity. That said, when I showed up at ACL, it was already in fact, I showed up just before, it was in my first couple of weeks, we had our 25th year anniversary. 25 years old as a software company, of course, is probably like 1,000-year-old in any other industry. And we had our challenges at ACL as well. When I showed up, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter were all blocked. You couldn't use them in the office. That's a great way to get the word out in today's world. We quite literally had more people who wrote requirements and specifications documents than we did actual software developers. So needless to say, we were kind of doing things the old way. I thought we'd actually built, in my little startup, a really great sort of dev culture around agile, iteration, all these sorts of things, Ruby on Rails, on and on. I was lucky to bring all that, hit ACL at a time that it was in great transition, and we really overhauled our company culture. And anybody who's familiar with ACL before or after would know this, but we went from the company that blocks YouTube to the company that takes selfies of our general counsel leaning on our 1978 purple Gran Torino with an ACL sticker on the hood, and whose customers ride mechanical bulls at our annual user conference. So great time to hit, a great time to land. For me, the big learning there was just because I was going to the big global monster from my little startup land, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't still change the world. And so looking for, when you look for resources to expand your impact, I think there's lots of ways to do that in a startup. We get pretty hung up on raising capital. Sometimes an early acquisition, at least in my case, was a fantastic answer. It gave me the opportunity to extend the product that I'd built in my basement. These are all brands that now use that product today. They do not pay $899 a month or $1,200 a year. In fact, our bigger customers pay about 100 times what my top-end pricing was at the time of the acquisition. So I will wrap that up to say, if I had a few lessons learned, for me, certainly, I am nowhere near even close to smart enough to be able to dig red clay and turn them into awesome building materials on site. I just found that if I built a product that I had to use every day, even if I didn't know what product management was, it inevitably made sure that it turned into a great product. I certainly found that building the bits is definitely the easy part, but at least in my case, in enterprise land, getting big companies to pay for them is not. And I started way too late on investing my energy and time and attention into that side. If there's anything I learned from that, I think it's that Kevin Costner clearly steered me wrong. If you build it, they do not necessarily come. The same thing, I needed to re-ask myself several times. It's quite funny that after all the mistakes I made, I actually own the price list at ACL today. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. But I need to constantly re-ask, as we've added more and more value to the solutions we offer customers, do we have the right business model? Are we asking for the right value in return? And so I've learned, we sort of learned, I'm not sure which, this metric that we use at ACL called portfolio lifetime value. First of all, the subscription model of selling anything is amazing. I don't know how you would do that with blocks you build out on site, but in tech, the subscription model is amazing, and what we do is measure portfolio lifetime value, which says based on how much recurring revenue we have with a customer times the average number of year we keep it times our total portfolio of customers, that's what we try and drive the most. That's the total value we expect to get from our portfolio of customers over time, and as long as that's growing, everything else seems to work out in time. And finally, for those that, like me, I said when I showed up at ACL, I'm going to both hate Canada, I heard it's cold there, and I'm going to hate working for this big company, even though ACL is not that big a company. Getting acquired doesn't necessarily have to suck if you find the right opportunities. So that is my story for tonight.
Any questions? I'm going to see if anyone new? No? Okay, we're going to start over here.
So without an extremely strong technical or design background, what do you think your strengths really lie that leads you to be successful in a product role?
You know what I found was, quite frankly, I mean, I had a little bit of, I learned a little bit about coding in college, but the tools and platforms, and most importantly, the communities that are out there now are so good that if you're in the spot I am, where really what you're trying to do is hack together a prototype, I don't frankly have a lot of appreciation for people who feel like they can't do that. It took me no Ruby experience at all. It took me to about 2 months, 2.5 months, till I had sort of working prototype. And I think that's a testament to tech communities like this one that are out there. Now, much different ballgame when we were in a different place and we need to scale and we need data centers all over the world and all this. Much different thing, but of course we had money by then, so easier to solve the problem.
Next question.
Which strategy did you aim to talk with big companies when you were small?
When I was small, I thought that we would do what your other sort of, I would say, almost like small business SaaS apps do. So again, I'm inspired by Basecamp. I think, hey, we put up a pricing page on the web, buy some Google ads, people will sign up, and off we go. The reality was my customer base wasn't like that of sort of a Basecamp, where they use lots of agencies, lots of small businesses, sorts of highly motivated people to change. My target market was teams inside of very large companies that don't have nearly the same level of motivation to go through the change management. And so what I did was effectively put up a sign-up form on the web. We got a nice bucket of customers that way, but what we needed was an enterprise sales and marketing force.
Sales and marketing. That's great. Sorry, I just got to push sales and marketing. More companies in Vancouver need to think about it.
What do you think like caused firms like ACL to come by and knock on your door asking to buy you?
Other than a killer product.
That's a great question. And to this day, something happened to this day that I don't totally know what it was. I think we got a bit of media attention somewhere, because I went from operating in total obscurity to 3 companies came around in the period of about a week and a half. And I still haven't figured out exactly what that was. But I think we probably, I think it was probably because one of our customers tend to be like internal audit departments who report directly to the board of large companies. And I think what I understand happened is one of our customers said, hey, we're using this new tool, and some hotshot board member made calls, I think. So yes, so that was a shitty answer because it was an accident also.
It was a great accident. It's a good accident. Anyone else? Last question.
Do you think that giving it away for free to that one really big company helped give you exposure and helped other people pay for it?
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan, for following me.
Yeah, that's a good question. I make fun of it, but if we would have never gotten started if my own firm hadn't have been my first reference customer. And by extension, we wouldn't have gotten much traction if we hadn't had some early wins. I think in that particular case, because they'd already been involved with it, they'd already been using it, I think I could have gotten them to pay. But nonetheless, certainly getting the sort of the reference and the word of mouth starting to build was much more important.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dan. That was amazing. I